What if the one thing everyone ignored turned out to be the only witness that mattered? A respected city official accused his neighbor of theft, claiming he had proof nobody else could deny. But the evidence felt too neat, too rehearsed, too convenient. When the police sided with power, the accused man's life unraveled overnight. Until someone asked, "But wait, what about that camera?" Stay with me until the very end, and don't forget to tap like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Because the truth has been hiding in plain sight all along. In a quiet corner of Dayton, Ohio, lived Ethan Hale, a freelance mechanic known for his straightforward honesty. Across the street sat Councilman Victor Raines, polished, wealthy, and politically untouchable. When a string of tools went missing from Ethan's garage, Victor accused him, turning neighborly tension into a public scandal. The town believed Victor. After all, who'd doubt a councilman over a struggling mechanic? Rumors spread faster than Ethan could speak. Customers canceled appointments, whispering he was under investigation. Victor, confident and charismatic, painted Ethan as desperate and dishonest. Friends avoided Ethan, not wanting to be caught in the shadow of suspicion. Ethan's protests, his late-night work habits, his receipts, and his reputation were drowned out by the echo of Victor's voice in town meetings. Police officers arrived at Ethan's garage. They scoured the shelves, noting how perfectly Victor's description matched the missing items. The officers photographed rusted sockets and wrench sets, but didn't care when Ethan explained he'd owned them for years. Victor watched from across the street, arms folded smugly. For Ethan, it felt like the world had decided before the first word of defense left his mouth. The city press covered it as if a verdict was already in. Headlines framed Ethan as the disgraced mechanic, while Victor made statements about upholding community trust. Ethan's landlord even hinted at eviction, worried about reputation. Victor's influence reached every corridor of police, press, landlords, even customers. Ethan's shoulders sagged, but beneath the weight of humiliation, a stubborn defiance flickered. Late one night, as Ethan sat staring at eviction papers, the tension snapped. A knock echoed at his door, sharp, deliberate, final. He opened it to two officers delivering a summons. Court was set. His world would shrink to a defendant's chair. And then, the midnight knock split the silence. Amid despair, Ethan's old friend Mara Delgado, a data technician, offered help. She asked a simple question the police never bothered with: what about security footage? Ethan swore no cameras pointed his way. But Mara remembered the forgotten city pole across the street, mounted with a weather-beaten, nearly invisible municipal camera Victor himself had once installed for community safety. Mara filed a request for the footage under public records law. Days later, a USB drive arrived, dusty with neglect. Ethan hesitated, fearing disappointment. But as the grainy file played, his heart skipped, a shadow, Victor's shadow, crossing into his yard, prying into the garage. Mara pressed pause. "Ethan, this isn't you. It's him." For the first time, the tide stirred. They took the footage to the police. But officers smirked, calling it blurry, inconclusive. Victor's influence still loomed, and the department seemed unwilling to turn against him. Ethan's fists clenched. Truth wasn't enough. They needed clarity, undeniable clarity, or the system would keep its blindfold on. Mara refused to quit, vowing to sharpen the video until no one could look away. Mara enlisted a forensic imaging specialist. Frame by frame, the video became clearer, Victor's tailored jacket glinting under the street lamp, his face turning briefly toward the lens. The thief was unmistakable. Ethan's heart pounded, not just with relief, but with fear. If Victor realized they had this evidence, what lengths would he go to silence it? Victor doubled down in court filings. He demanded Ethan's garage license be revoked and presented fabricated witnesses claiming they'd seen Ethan selling tools. The courtroom seemed tilted in Victor's favor, the judge familiar with his political donations. Ethan's name was dragged further into the mud. But in the back row, Mara clutched the USB drive like a lifeline. When it was finally their turn, Ethan's attorney introduced the footage. Gasps rippled as Victor's figure appeared on screen, hand inside Ethan's garage. The very man who championed law and order was revealed as the trespasser. The courtroom went still. The very rule he used against Ethan now condemned him. Victor's lawyer scrambled, arguing the footage was doctored. But Mara testified to the chain of custody, the official city timestamp embedded in the file. The judge leaned closer, his earlier ease shifting to unease. The narrative was cracking. Jurors who once eyed Ethan with suspicion now whispered, brows furrowed toward Victor. Further scrutiny revealed Victor's fingerprints on Ethan's garage door handle. Forensics had missed it, perhaps overlooked it, during the biased first investigation. Combined with the footage, the truth pressed harder. Ethan, once the hunted, began to see disbelief flicker across Victor's polished facade. His grin tightened, his eyes darted nervously to the exits. Reporters who once condemned Ethan now sensed blood in the water. Cameras followed Victor, questioned sharp, "Councilman, why were you at Hale's garage at midnight?" His denial sounded hollow, strained. Ethan, sitting quietly, felt dignity stir again, not vengeance, but the fragile power of truth finally stepping into daylight. The prosecutor, initially hesitant, now pivoted. He pursued Victor aggressively, presenting the contradictions between Victor's statements and the footage. Defense witnesses faltered under cross-examination. Each new detail magnified Victor's guilt, the timestamps, his shoes matching the prints, his access to police who conveniently ignored evidence. The courtroom atmosphere thickened. Ethan's fate no longer hung in silence, it roared. Victor's voice cracked as he denied. Jurors leaned forward, caught in the unraveling of a man who had ruled their town through image and intimidation. Justice felt within reach, though fragile until the final gavel fell. Mara revealed a final twist. The municipal camera wasn't just one, it was linked to two others down the street, syncing timestamps. Together, they formed an unbroken chain of Victor's movements, leaving no room for doubt. But one detail was always there, buried in plain sight. Confronted with the synced footage, Victor snapped. He slammed his fist, calling the trial a conspiracy. His voice shook, rage spilling through the mask of authority. The judge pounded the gavel. For the first time, the power dynamic inverted, Victor shouting, Ethan silent, the jury watching with wide, hardened eyes. The prosecution stacked the evidence, fingerprints, footprints, video, and Victor's own inconsistent statements. Jurors scribbled notes, nodding grimly. The polished councilman who once commanded the town now looked small, cornered, and desperate. Every piece aligned into a single truth: Ethan had been framed, and Victor was the thief all along. When the verdict landed, silence swallowed the room. Guilty on charges of trespass, theft, and false accusation. Ethan's chest loosened as if chains had fallen away. And then every voice fell silent as the truth hit the table. Victor was sentenced, stripped of his office, and led away in handcuffs. Ethan was cleared of all charges, his record restored. The town that had once mocked him now nodded respectfully when he passed. The justice system, though slow and resistant, had bent back toward truth under the weight of undeniable evidence. Ethan reopened his garage. Customers slowly returned, some apologizing for their silence. Mara remained at his side, the unlikely hero who remembered the camera nobody noticed. Though scars lingered, lost months, damaged trust, Ethan's name was no longer dirt but a symbol. Truth had been fragile, nearly erased, but it had survived. On the night Victor was taken away, Ethan stood outside his garage, looking at the same pole with the forgotten camera. Rain slicked the pavement, and for once, he didn't feel small beneath it. Lesson: power can twist the narrative, but truth, even grainy, forgotten truth, has a way of surviving if someone refuses to stop looking. Justice may bend, but it is never fully buried. If you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, subscribe to this channel and never miss the next case where truth prevails.